Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News Program, and these are tonight's top stories. Deadly Zionist raids pound Gaza Strip. 7 more die of hunger in just one day, while a big aid mission set sail to break the siege. Also in our news tonight, since 2014, Morocco has kicked out 327 foreign observers. Rights groups say robots hiding the truth and must face up to genocide crimes. Coming up as well in Sudan, RSF shelling kills 7 and wounds 71 in Al Fasher. The Foreign Ministry slams attacks on Heglig oil fields as the WHO warns 250,000 people are on the brink. And later on at the SCO summit, Putin and Xi weigh Moscow-Washington ties. Meanwhile, China and India restart flights, patch up border management, and Turkey hints it's ready to hop on Beijing's Belt and Road. The details up next. Hello again and welcome back to the program. First in our news, on Sunday, occupation raids slammed into Gaza City, flattening homes and sending families running for safety once again. According to Gaza's media office, in just the last 3 weeks, more than 80 booby-trapped robots have been set off in residential areas. Zarfarjani has the story.
Zionist warplanes are flying low over Gaza City, firing missiles at the largest residential areas and camps sheltering displaced families, while tanks block the entrances of its neighborhoods. More than 1 million Palestinians in Gaza City and the north of the Strip are now under direct threat as the Zionist occupation makes yet another attempt to erase what remains of life in the besieged enclave after leveling Rafah and Khan Yunis to the ground.
This is my tent. Within 3 minutes they told us to evacuate and I got the children out, people, women, babies, elderly, those with disabilities and the weak, all evacuated. Those tents were great, we were living here, happy. This is the area they said was safe. South of Gaza, this is the safe area. I have been displaced from one place to another, from north to central of Gaza Strip, and then here. We are tired, we are exhausted.
Over the past 3 weeks, the occupation forces have carried out some of its deadliest attacks in Gaza's neighborhoods, deploying more than 80 booby-trapped robots. Entire families were burned alive inside their tents, parts of a Zionist strategy aimed at forcing residents into mass displacement with no clear destination.
By God, we're staying put. We are not leaving, not leaving, not leaving. We will die here. In the end, it is death either way. Where can we go? We will stay here, die with dignity and die as martyrs, rather than leave and be humiliated in foreign lands.
What more can they do? There is already killing and destruction. Nothing is left. No trees, no stones, no human beings. Everything is gone. It does not matter to us anymore. If they want to wipe us out, then let them wipe us out.
The escalation of operations in Gaza's largest city is part of Israel's ground offensive, designed to seize control of the city and extinguish whatever remains of life within it.
In the same context, an occupation strike on displacement camps across Gaza Strip left at least 53 people dead on Sunday. Medical sources say 20 were killed in raids on tents in Gaza City and Jabalia, 19 more in drone strikes on homes in central camps and in the south. Nasser Hospital reported 14 killed, including 2 children, after shelling hit tents in Khan Yunis. In a related story, dozens of Palestinians were killed and injured as occupation forces opened fire on crowds waiting for aid in Gaza Strip. Nasser Medical Complex says 17 people died near U.S. aid points in Khan Yunis and Rafah. Al-Auda Hospital confirms 14 killed and 10 wounded at the Netzarim axis in central Gaza Strip, while in the north, 19 more were shot dead as they gathered for aid in Beit Lahia. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza says 7 more people have died of hunger in the past 24 hours. That brings the total famine-related deaths to 339, including 124 children. Since famine was officially declared, 61 people, among them 9 children, have died from malnutrition. As a reaction to the genocide unfolding in Gaza Strip, around 20 ships of the Global Resilience Flotilla set sail from Barcelona on Sunday, billed as the biggest mission yet to break Gaza's blockade. The fleet carries over 300 activists, including activist Greta Thunberg, Irish actor Liam Cunningham, Spanish actor Eduardo Fernandez, and former Barcelona mayor Ada Colau. Thousands more from 44 countries are expected to join, with the flotilla set to continue from Tunisia on Thursday.
If it was not the Medellin, then the Handala. If it's not the Handala, the next mission that will be bigger will break the siege of Gaza. Because a regime that depends on starving children to death and bombing hospitals, schools, shelters, and residential areas to stay on top of people cannot survive. So we understand that the whole world is uniting against this genocide. The peoples of the world, on a planet of 8 billion people, the vast majority, they are so against this violation.
The mission that we are about to embark, the story here is about Palestine. The story here is how people are being deliberately deprived of the very basic means to survive. And the story here is how the world can be silent and how those in power, those who are supposed to represent us, are in every possible way betraying and failing Palestinians and all oppressed peoples of the world.
On a related note, the Flotilla Steering Committee says it's launching a global solidarity movement for Palestine. At a press conference in Barcelona, organizer Tiago Avila said the campaign aims to break Gaza's siege and end international complicity with the occupation, projecting more than 30,000 people will eventually join to help stop the death and famine in the Strip.
Well, I've been contacted several people. I've had a lot of people. I've been like a conduit. I was in Sicily as well. And I mean, look, one of the reasons you guys are talking to me now is because I have a certain profile, specifically, I suppose, what'll be on my gravestone, Game of Thrones. So when you do have a profile gifted to you, I think you've a responsibility to use that humanely. And I need to be able to look in the mirror and say, at least I tried to do something. At least I tried to bring attention to what's going on, and not allow that horrific phrase, compassion fatigue, to be squandered, to be bandied about. It's a purely human.
South African activists, including Nelson Mandela's grandson, are joining the international flotilla against Gaza's blockade. The group left Johannesburg and will sail from Tunisia to link up with more than 50 boats from 44 countries. The Global Resilience Flotilla aims to converge in international waters by September 4.
We are proud, comrades, to say that we have mobilized more than 40 boats with 44 countries coming together. Our goal is simply to end and break the siege on Gaza. We are delivering desperately needed humanitarian aid to Palestinians, as over 1 million people in Gaza are starving. Who perpetuates the violence? Who poses a threat not only to Palestinians, but to you and me, for the entire global community? There is only one threat: racist Israel, Netanyahu, and his regime.
And in a different development, Reporters Without Borders, together with Avaz, will launch a global media campaign on Monday with 150 outlets from 50 countries. The campaign denounces the killing of Palestinian journalists in Gaza Strip and calls for protection, urgent evacuation, and independent media access. Gaza's media office says 246 journalists have been killed since October 7, 2023. Meanwhile, dozens of Zionist settlers under police protection stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Al-Quds on Sunday. The Palestinian news agency says they performed Talmudic rituals and provocative dances in sensitive areas, including Bab al-Rahma courtyards. Such visits are seen as highly inflammatory and a challenge to this site's status quo. Elsewhere in the Middle East, Zionist airstrikes hit several areas in Nabatiyah, southern Lebanon on Sunday, killing at least one person. Lebanon's national news agency says multiple missiles caused huge explosions and heavy damage to homes. The health ministry confirmed one fatality after a strike targeted a man on a bicycle between Nabatiyah al-Fawqa and Maifadun. And in Yemen, Houthi leader Abdul Malik al-Houthi vowed more missile and drone attacks against the Zionist occupation, saying strikes will continue in an escalating manner. In a speech on Sunday, he stressed that the enemy's blows will not weaken the group's support for the Palestinian people.
هذه التضحية الكبيرة في سبيل الله سبحانه وتعالى.
This great sacrifice for the sake of God Almighty will not affect our country's position, either officially or popularly, and will not lead to retreat or weakness. On the contrary, sacrifice for the sake of God Almighty increases our determination, certainty, resilience, and cohesion.
To other topic in North Africa now, Morocco has expelled 327 international observers, activists and journalists from Western Sahara since 2014, according to a joint statement by the Saharan French solidarity groups. The statement noted that 27 of those expulsions occurred this year alone and include parliamentarians, human rights defenders and trade unionists from 21 different countries. The groups condemned the measures as part of a tightened siege of the occupied territory. On a related note, Hasna Douihi from the Association for the Protection of the Sahrawi Prisoners says Western Sahara remains under a strict military and media siege by Moroccan forces. He noted the recent deportation of two activists from the US and Portugal who were planning to visit occupied Laayoune.
The exclusion of international observers is part of a systematic policy aimed at obscuring the facts and concealing the occupation's crimes against the Sahrawi civilians. The absence of independent and impartial human rights monitoring remains a major obstacle to conducting a comprehensive assessment of the situation. The Moroccan occupation insists on isolating the region from the outside world and keeping it under a media and military siege in order to commit its crimes away from the press and international observers. Despite the tight siege, parliamentarians, human rights activists and journalists from all over the world expressed their solidarity with the just cause of the Sahrawi people.
The International Non-Violence Organization said the Moroccan occupation's expulsion of observers from Western Sahara shows its fear of truth and transparency. It stressed the move is a deliberate attempt to silence observers and block independent reporting on the occupied territory.
The expulsions are part of a deliberate strategy to silence international observers and restrict any independent reporting on the occupied Western Sahara. This is clear evidence of Morocco's fear of the truth, instead of allowing peaceful visitors to engage with Sahrawi communities. The occupying forces respond unlawfully with lies and expulsions. Just like the Zionist entity, Morocco fears truth and transparency. Both the Moroccan and Zionist regimes rely only on lies, repression, and expulsions. Just as the Zionist occupation of Palestine must come to an end, so too must Morocco's occupation of Western Sahara. This is not only a matter of human rights, but also part of the global struggle against colonialism and impunity.
The Sahrawi rights group Qadessa has reviewed or renewed its pledge to hold Moroccan authorities accountable for genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity in Western Sahara. Marking the International Day of the Disappeared, the group stressed such crimes carry no law of limitations under international law and urged the UN and humanitarian bodies to help uncover the fate of kidnapped Sahrawi civilians.
Coinciding with the forcible annexation following the military invasion of Western Sahara on October 31, 1975, various military and civilian apparatuses of the Moroccan occupying power committed war crimes, crimes of genocide and crimes against humanity, accompanied by systematic repressive practices targeting children, women, the elderly, and youth. On this International Day of the Victims of Enforced Disappearances, CODESA reaffirms its commitment to the principles of no impunity and to holding accountable those responsible within the Moroccan military and civilian apparatus for war crimes, crimes of genocide, and crimes against humanity committed against Sahrawi civilians. The organization further demands reparations for victims, including the return of remains, official apologies to the victims and their families, and full acknowledgement of the truth in accordance with internationally recognized standards applied by truth commissions worldwide.
In a different story, the Sudanese Doctors Network said Sunday that RSF shelling on Al Fashar killed at least 7 people and injured 71. Describing the situation as full-blown genocide, it urged pressing international and local action to stop the attacks, lift the siege, and open safe corridors for civilians. In the meantime, Sudan's foreign ministry condemned the RSF attack on the Heglig oil fields in West Kordofan, which killed and injured several civilians. It called the assault treacherous, accusing the militia of targeting vital infrastructure and public services since its rebellion began in April 2023. For its part, the World Health Organization warned Sunday that around 260,000 people in Al Fashar face critical humanitarian conditions amid blocked aid access. WHO Regional Director Hanan Balkhi said 35 health facilities have been destroyed, 5,000 suspected cholera cases recorded with 98 deaths, and some 130,000 children are suffering from malnutrition.
Food stocks and supplies inside the city have long since run out, while medical shipments are waiting in the neighboring city of Nyala as part of a United Nations convoy ready to move as soon as they are granted permission. Every single day of delay means the loss of more lives.
In another topical news story, the Kremlin says President Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping held detailed talks ahead of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit. Aide Yuri Ushakov noted they discussed a wide range of issues, including recent Washington-Moscow contacts, highlighting their coordination before the summit.
Yes, our president initially held detailed talks with the president of the People's Republic of China. They sat together and were able to talk very actively and effectively. Among this, as our president told me, the latest contacts with the Americans were discussed, as our contacts with them were discussed too.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has announced that direct flights with China will resume after being suspended since 2020. Speaking at the SCO summit in Tianjin, his first visit to China in 7 years, Modi said cooperation between the two nations affects more than 2.8 billion people, though no date was given for the flights to restart.
Last year in Kazan, we had a very fruitful discussion which gave a positive direction to our relations. After the disengagement on the border, an atmosphere of peace and stability has been created. An agreement has been reached between our special representatives regarding border management. Direct flights between the two countries are also being resumed. The interests of 2.8 billion people of both the countries are linked to our cooperation. This will also pave the way for the welfare of the entire humanity. We are committed to taking our relations forward on the basis of mutual trust, respect and sensitivity.
On a similar note, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says Turkey is ready to deepen cooperation with China under the Belt and Road Initiative. Speaking at the SCO summit in Tianjin, he reaffirmed Ankara's commitment to the One China policy, praised Beijing's neutral stance on the Middle East, and called for joint efforts to uphold global justice and fairness. The war in Ukraine is entering yet another tense phase, with Kiev vowing deeper strikes into Russia after a barrage of drone attacks plunged thousands into darkness. And while Zelensky rallies support at home, divisions are emerging among Ukraine's Western allies. The report is by Yasin Erkti.
Ukraine is vowing to hit back hard, promising strikes deep inside Russia after a fresh wave of drone attacks left tens of thousands in the dark. Officials say 4 energy sites were hit in Odessa, cutting power to nearly 30,000 people. Kiev claims it shut down most of the drones, 132 out of 142. And after meeting his top commander, President Vladimir Zelensky said new retaliatory strikes are in the works as Moscow keeps pounding cities and energy infrastructure.
Шановні українці, Україна.
I am now awaiting a report from head of Ukraine's presidential office, Andriy Yermak. After his meeting in the United States, he spoke with Steve Witkoff. We are also preparing for meetings in Europe next week. We are doing everything to ensure a strong response to Russia's actions. I thank everyone who is helping us. Glory to Ukraine.
As for Ukraine's Western allies, Hungary has once again blocked a multi-billion-dollar EU package. But at a joint press conference with Ursula von der Leyen, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk struck a different tone, urging Europe, NATO and the US to stand firm and keep up the pressure on Russia.
Pokazują to bardzo wyraźnie, że żadne ustępstwa.
The recent weeks and days have made it very clear that no concessions, no subtle games with Putin and aggressive Russia lead to success or guarantee our security. Poland, Europe, NATO, and the United States must once again, just as we did 45 years ago when we received the support of the entire West as solidarity was being formed, be very firm, decisive, and united in the face of this latest version of the evil empire. Enough of concessions.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin accused Europe of prolonging the war and obstructing US President Donald Trump's peace efforts. The comments came days after a Russian strike killed 23 people in Kiev and damaged EU offices.
Российская партия войны сохраняет свой основной тренд.
The European War Party maintains its main trend. They do not calm down. This is in stark contrast to the approach, for example, that our President Putin, adheres to, and US President Trump as well, whose efforts to bring the process to a peaceful course are difficult to overestimate. And we are grateful for these efforts. The Europeans are hindering these efforts. The Europeans are putting spokes in the wheels. The Europeans are in very way condoning and probably encouraging the Kiev regime to continue the absolutely absurd line of intransigence. This is a big mistake. It will not do any good to Kiev regime. On the contrary, it will make the situation even worse for the Kiev regime.
So as Ukraine readies more long-range strikes and Moscow digs its heels, the fighting is clearly nowhere near the finish line. Kiev insists Russia's boasts of capturing big cities are overblown, calling them more spin than fact. And while drones keep buzzing overhead, the real battle of diplomacy is dragging on too.
Now it is time to catch up on more international news stories with Sofian Kanturi in the News in Brief.
French Prime Minister François Bayrou warned of an imminent economic collapse, saying mounting debt risks sinking the country like a ship on the verge of ongoing endure. The European Union has announced that its proposed budget for 2028-2034 aims to triple funding for migration and border management. During a visit to Poland's border with Belarus on Sunday, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, speaking alongside Polish Prime Minister, expressed solidarity with Poland as a frontline state facing what she called hybrid attacks. US President Donald Trump said Saturday he will issue an executive order requiring voter ID Trump has long questioned the U.S. electoral system and continues to falsely claim his 2020 loss to Democrat Joe Biden was due to widespread fraud. In Pakistan, the Disaster Management Authority in Punjab reported that recent floods have affected 1.5 million people and 2,308 villages.
And that brings us to the end of our news program for tonight. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms. Thank you for tuning in and good night.